All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode on What the Sheet. And in today's episode, we are going to be making a raised dog bed slash bench. So if you go back to some of my previous videos, like some of my really early videos, you'll see I had an oak bench sitting in my garage. Typically, it was over there by the garage door, and I'm going to be making pretty much the exact same thing with some minor differences. The main difference is just going to be the top and the rail. So if I show you here on my computer, with this new one, because this is going to be for a dog bed, it'll have a skirt around the top to hold the dog bed, and then this top piece, which was the bench top on my other bench, is actually going to be a sheet of 3/4 inch oak plywood, and then everything will get a stain of the Kona stain like I've used in the blanket chest, and then at least one coat of poly, maybe two, just to get everything nice and a little bit of a glossy finish and a nice solid coating on it, so that way the dog's not scratching it when he's jumping up and down on there. And so I don't know if I mentioned this, but this whole thing's gonna be made out of oak. So I've got 2x2 oak for the legs, and then 1x2 oak for the kind of that bottom shelf area and the kind of the skirting, and then this 1x2 oak, which will be the skirt that goes around the top and holds the dog bed in place so it doesn't slide off when the dog jumps off and gets up and gets on off the bench. And the reason I'm making this bench is the wife's cousin wanted something for their small dog so he can sit on that and look out the window at their place, because he likes to look out the windows. And then they also wanted it small enough to where they can move it from one room to the other, and that's part of the reason why it's a bench instead of a chest, just to make it easier to move back and forth. And I think for joinery, we're going to stick with dowels for everything. I don't really want to glue it if I don't have to, just so the wife's cousin, if he needs to, if they move it at any time, they can break this down, so it's a little bit easier to transport it that way. And then, for my sake, transporting it, it's not as big of a bulky thing to try and move around. But this should be a relatively simple project. I'm hoping to get it all done today in a couple hours, and then stain it tomorrow, and then deliver it this weekend. So I'm going to get started. We're going to break down the plywood, and then go over to the miter saw, cut all my parts out for the legs and the shelf and the skirting, and then I'll come back once I start assembly. All right, so we got all the little pieces cut, got my dowel holes put in. I've glued the kind of the corner edges for the kind of shelf on the bottom, so I got that glued yesterday, so that's ready to go. I just got to do some sanding on that to get the glue off. And now I'm working on the top portion. So like I said, the top is just the oak veneered plywood, and then it's got a 2.5 inch wide oak rail. And the plan for this is I'm going to drop this down about 1/4 to 1/2 inch below this, so that shelf will kind of float in the middle. And then the inside lip here will be what holds the dog bed inside here. And all I did was I did the round over, which you guys saw already, on all the edges of the trim here, just so you know it's not going to chip out as likely as everything else. And then on the corners here, when I go to actually put this all together, I'm going to put some glue in there, and then I'll pin it together to keep it tight. And then once that's all dried, that should hopefully tighten these corners up so there won't be any gap. And then I'll come back through and I'll sand the corners, the edge of the corner down so it's not so sharp. And then the main way I'm going to attach the trim to the top here, or this kind of platform, is I'm going to put pocket holes on the bottom, and I'll do probably 2 or 3 on the short ends and then 4 or 5 on the long ends. And that way, once I get the edge all, you know, the whole frame kind of glued together like you would like a normal picture frame or, you know, a door frame or anything like that, then it's just a matter of clamping this in the right spot on the lid and then throwing some pocket screws in, and then that's secured. And then after that, I'm going to go over here and we're going to glue all of the kind of the base parts of the legs and all the rails and stuff together. And then once I get that assembled and glued, I'm going to bring that over and get it centered on here. And then I'll mark out on the top where the legs are. And then I'll just do a pilot screw, or I'll drill a hole that's countersunk through the top here. It'll meet up with the legs. And then once I go to attach it all I got to do is just put a screw in, and it's attached to the bottom. Super simple, and it allows for some disassembly and just an easier way to kind of connect the two halves really together. But once I get this assembled and the base assembled, I'm gonna go through, sand everything down so it's got an all nice even finish on it, mainly the bottom piece. And then I'll stain it, poly it, and then once it's all kind of completed that way, then I'll go and I'll combine the two halves, because it'll be a lot easier to stain the base without the top being in the way, and then I can kind of get in there and get all the nooks and crannies and stuff like that. Same with this, it's a lot easier to get underneath and on the inside trim if there's nothing in my way. But once I get all that done, it's just a matter of assembling it and delivering it, so it should be moving right along here today.